This week I'm calling this episode The Almost Made It.
So. Almost made it. Hey everybody, I'm Jake. I'm off the camera. If you guys have noticed, Steve has upgraded to a real psychedelic type of situation here.
Yep.
Complete with bar and plants.
New episodes, new locations.
Almost there. What's the reason for the title this week?
Okay, so when I build out my show, I usually come in initially with a lot more tracks than I end up playing. I wanna get this music out there and share it with everybody. But a lot of times I just don't have enough time in a show. So what this week's episode is kind of taking a look back at some of our previous shows and playing some tracks that almost made the cut.
Okay, so these are the ones that were like left on the cutting room floor a little bit.
Exactly,
All
exactly.
Right.
For no other reason, basically, than the narrative of the episode changed, or the show was just going to go too long. So these were all tracks that I did want to play over the last 6 months, but never had an opportunity to. So I think this is a good chance to dip in and bounce around. So we're going to be listening to, it's not going to be like a punk show or a metal show. This is a little bit of everything.
Kind of
touching back into all our stuff.
All right, this is a good place to be as we creep into the warm months. And,
yes.
A lot of shows coming up, so it'd be a good kind of like a mixer for a lot of stuff that's happening.
Absolutely, certainly.
And again, we have to say thank you to the FDC studios and Kyle Garcia for giving us a new home for the week.
This is a great space.
Our studio is currently under construction, and we will be back soon. But for now, we're hanging out up here in Logan Square. If you guys want to come by and check us out, we have a little takeout window behind here, and
yeah, we're like what is that, Channel 7 down in town.
We're getting there slowly. But yeah, man, awesome. Shout out to the Chicago creative community for helping us out. And we'll be here for maybe the next couple weeks, and we'll be back home. But what do you got for us on the beer front this week, my friend?
All right, so getting into our traditions, this week's beer is Beguile Brewing's Beguile Blonde. Another great Chicago beer, great Chicago brewery. You can find them just off the Brown Line at the Irvin Park stop. So,
oh, really?
Yep. Northside, great Northside brewery.
They're popping up everywhere. I know we talk about that a lot, but they used to be like a big thing, like CH Distillery is so big and stuff like that. But I mean, not a brewery, but same idea. Mm-hmm. And now it seems like they are just packing them in all over the city. Yeah. It used to be like that here, though, years ago, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's a great, kind of upstart collection of microbreweries in and around the city, and it's a wonderful wealth of beer to explore.
And not just beer. I mean, we're currently, here in Logan Square, right next to Chicago Distillery Company. They're doing a lot of, I believe they do a lot of like whiskeys and gins and stuff like that over there. So yeah, it's like across the board. A lot of stuff happening over here. We're also next to Revolution.
yeah. But dip back into this. This is a really nice blonde ale. It's 5.2 ABV, so it's a little bit hardier than a typical like summer session beer.
Okay.
But it's not hitting you over the head with like hops. It's not super bitter. It's a nice, easy drinking beer. That
it is. It's a good sipper. I always get worried about the blondes. Mm-hmm. Those always worry me because the pale ales and shit. But no, this one's really good. It's definitely a good one for the day we're in today.
Absolutely. And we're sitting here drinking these, and if left to our own devices, these things will sneak up on you.
Yeah. 5.4. Mm-hmm. Not bad.
Yeah, you get your money's worth on these. Yeah. Very good stuff.
So how does the beer play into the music we're gonna hear today?
It was more, I live up on the north side, and it's kind of an eclectic show, so it was a little bit more representational of my neighborhood, let's say.
Okay, tell us a little more. Tell us a little more about how does it hark back to the neighborhood? Is it just the fact that that's where you get off the boat?
Literally, I passed by this brewery.
Oh, it was just literally like you're bringing Albany Park.
Yeah,
bringing Albany Park down over to Logan Square for us a little bit.
Yeah. So I pass by this brewery when I go to work downtown like twice a day, like I said. So
it's just time to do it.
Definitely, it's on my radar all the time, and this is actually something that's typically found in my refrigerator at home. This is a good one. I like it.
Super dope.
Yeah.
All right, well let's start creeping into this music, man. Check out what you got on the docket for us this week.
Yeah. So like I said, we're gonna be bouncing around and getting into our other show tradition. I got that shirt, and this week
My fault.
I had to literally pull this one out of the archive.
Yeah.
This is an old one.
What is your, when you say archives, it's actually kind of real. You have like boxes of these things,
Yeah.
right? So like,
I don't have enough drawers in my apartment to put all of them. So when I run out of room, I got to get a box.
do you have like a filing system?
No, I should.
Yeah.
I have a loose filing system. The 99% of my shirts are black.
Okay.
So,
All right. So it makes it even harder to find anything.
Most of the drawers are black shirts, and then there's one drawer which just is like a rainbow of color shirts.
So you couldn't like find a certain shirt right away.
No, I had to dig this one out. I was actually scrambling around this morning looking for it.
Hey, like we said, Steve goes to your shows. He'll buy that merch. He's a great guy to have at the show.
Yeah. And like I said, like dipping back into the archive, thinking back, I picked up this shirt at Sweet Cobra's debut album release show at the Fireside Bowl about 15 years ago. And I think this was the last shirt that they had brought with them. So,
so you got like that's an exclusive.
Yeah, and that's why this is a large, and it doesn't really fit me very well. I typically go with the XLs. I'm a big Chicagoan, so. But yeah, so music-wise, we played Sweet Cobra before, and
definitely heard the name come across the airwaves.
And just a quick step back, before I get ahead of myself, like I was saying with the Hustle, that was an outtake from episode 11. That was the Back to the Windy episode.
Okay,
so
yeah.
We played a little bit of Hustle on that episode, and this was a track that I really dug, but it didn't fit the vibe of that week's show. So I wanted to give another chance to play some stuff from these guys, and this was a perfect opportunity for it.
Super dope.
Moving into the next song, again, we've played Sweet Cobra before. Great Chicago band.
Where are they like in the city? Where are you usually catching them and stuff?
They are one of those bands that they're a workhorse local band. You could see them on the bills of a lot of like larger touring acts. They do have, I think, a good relationship and connection to bands like Pelican and Relayer. You see them a lot, like playing with them. I've seen them play with the Life and Times. I've seen them play with, just a whole multitude. From big national touring acts. I think I've seen them open for High on Fire at the Empty Bottle. I've seen them at the Fireside, like I mentioned before.
So they're very much like intertwined with it seems like everything that's happened in the city. Yeah.
I think the most recent time I saw them was just about a month or two ago at
Where was
the
that
Empty
at?
Bottle.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What was the occasion? Was it just
that was the record release show for Relayer's new album. We played that one.
Oh yeah. I remember you telling me about that show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's all coming together. Like I get bits and pieces every day, and then slowly piece it all back together at the end.
Yeah. So with this one, I think we've played Sweet Cobra a few times, but I've always been dipping into their early stuff, which is a little bit more aggressive, let's say.
Okay.
So with this week's episode, again, this was an outtake from an old outtake. This was actually from episode 5, our Stoner Doom episode, where we played a little bit of Sun God Ra and Uncouth and Mako Sika.
Okay.
And this was a track that it just didn't really fit the vibe of that show. But like I said,
when you say it didn't fit the vibe, elaborate.
With that episode, I was playing Chicago Doom Stoner bands that were a little bit more, let's say, expansive. If you recall, the tracks were a little bit longer. They were a little bit more meaty. They kind of tracked around for a while, meandered a little bit. And this song we're going to check out is it's off their most recent record, and it's a little bit more peppy, a little bit more upbeat, but it's not that level of aggression that you find on some of the earlier tracks that we played from them.
Okay, we're going to jump into this one. It's Old Haunts, Sweet Cobra.
Yep, and this is off of their most recent album, Earth. And like I said, this was an outtake from way back in episode 5. So let's dip in and check it out.
All right, here we go.
track. We were just jamming out to The Ants Will Eat Rome. And that was a track by Please Inform the Captain. This is a hijack. And that was an outtake from just a recent episode, actually. That was an outtake from episode 17, the Birthday Suits Crisco Thunder review. I wanted to play that track, actually, but I had run out of time for the episode. That was another band, one of the several bands, if you recall back to our discussion on that one, that was a Crisco Thunder jam. So Crisco Thunder is in several of the San Francisco Sarah Kirsch-related hardcore bands, and this was one of them. We'll actually be dipping into another side project from that group a little bit later on in the show. But before that, we were jamming out to some Sweet Cobra. That was Old Haunts off of Earth, and just having a good time on Saturday.
Rolling it out, man. Yeah. We got NBA jams happening back here. Got the backcourt coming up. They're warming up right now. That one was dope. I mean, what episode was that one from, you said?
That was from episode 17, so just a few weeks ago.
17 was only a few weeks ago? Jesus. Been doing this for what now? The show started the second
of the year.
Second week of January, I want to say. And ever since the second week of January, we've been pretty consistent for every week. Steve had some business to take care of last week, so we took last week off with Memorial Day appropriately. But if any of you were watching on the channel, then you probably saw we had the live event here at the FDC studios, Sauced with Harold's Chicken. They had the chicken truck rolling. It was a great time. We had some DJs and everything. You can check all those broadcasts out on our Periscope page.
Yeah, I'm actually disappointed I wasn't able to make that. You know, I am a fan of Harold's.
Yeah. But also, Steve's gotten his hand some of our new merch.
Yes.
From our man Dan. Dan's dead.
Awesome stuff, man. So we've got the
Costigan. I always say Costigan for some reason. Costigan. Dan Costigan holding down our merch side. We got the koozie, and
we're going big time, man.
This is like an infomercial right now. We got shirts, we got koozies.
We got this badass.
Yeah, there you go, Mod Sauce Radio.
Fuck yeah. And we've also got, you can't fucking go without it. It's kind of hot.
It's kind of hot.
Good stuff.
So yeah, we got the merch. At all of the events you guys can catch us at, we'll have those coming around very soon. But back to the music. That was a little faster. It was a little more upbeat.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what we talked about in episode 17 because we have gotten away with so many already.
Oh yeah. We bounce around and we talk about a lot of stuff. So.
But what like catches your eye about these guys? Like I know you said it's like part of a few side projects and shit. How do you feel about side projects? And rock, there's like it's such a big thing, like everyone, especially because you're an instrumentalist, you can move around. Right. Do you feel like people try to take their ideas to like different groups of people to find the right group?
Sometimes it really works, and I think sometimes sometimes it's a misfire. I think in terms of the Sarah Kirsch related bands, there's a lot of cool like angular post-punk stuff going on, as we heard with Please Inform the Captain.
Right.
We'll be hearing a little bit more later on this episode. But there are a lot of commonalities with that kind of group of side projects. But if you look at like other side projects and kind of relating it back to Chicago, and this gets a little bit old school, but if you think about like Ministry, they were a Chicago staple for many years, before they moved out to Texas. But while they were here, in between albums, if Al wanted to work with Jello Biafra from the Dead Kennedys, they would do work up a band, and then you get Lard, which was great. If he wanted to do stuff with Ian MacKaye from Fugazi and Minor Threat, they'd work up Palehead, and that was also great. He'd bounce around, do more dancey stuff with Cabaret Voltaire, and then sprouting out of that, you had Ministry's touring band that was, once the tour ended and they were still excited to do stuff, they said fuck it and formed Pigface, which became its own seven-headed monster.
That's actually a crazy little evolution you just gave us through that whole thing.
So I think that some stuff works out great.
Yeah.
I think on the other hand, you look at some stuff, and again, I don't mean this to be negative in any way because to each his own. But like personally, I felt that some of the Maynard side projects from Tool, you know, like Perfect Circle, not really my jam, you know what I mean? Or if you look at Slipknot and how they're heavy, but like the side project off of that was, I believe, Stone Sour, which is a little bit more radio friendly, not my speed. So, you know, I think it goes into, you know, what people are looking for when they're doing these side projects.
Well, I feel like it's a great opportunity to do something that has no pressure on it too, you know, and that might sometimes, I could see how that might sometimes like make it worse. I think it depends on the artist, right?
Yeah.
Artists who work great under pressure versus artists who need like that freedom and expression. Like some people need that pressure. They need that to put that date on paper and like work to that date and get everything done and have to crunch it in and all that. Other people like to just like wallow through life and, you know, figure out what's good or what's bad and like do it like that. So I think it is interesting because side projects kind of take on a little bit of that aspect.
A little bit of that character,
Yeah, it's like, you know, is this going to be are you a person who can just kind of like do something without any pressure on you and then make it dope? Or yeah, it's really interesting. Actually, I never thought through that.
Yeah, but I mean, like as a music fan, I'm always excited to hear, you know,
definitely
new stuff. So
we were getting a little criticky for a moment, but yeah, I feel you. Yeah.
But no, it's fun stuff, and you know, you see it all around, and you know, that's been kind of a standard in music for, you know, ages, and I appreciate it. So
super dope. Well, what else are we gonna be catching here?
All right, so this is an outtake from episode 7 when we had Alex White in as our guest, and we were doing a little bit of musical back and forth with her. This was a track that I had wanted to play, but just the nature of that one, and actually, you know, we weren't sure what Alex was going to bring in. So initially when I was building out that episode, I was trying to keep in mind what she was maybe going to play. So I was starting out with a little bit bigger focus in Chicago music. And if you'll recall, I believe I stuck with new local music on that episode.
Yeah.
She bounced around with some old classic jams.
Well, that's always what, I mean, she's always bringing the 45s out. You guys catch Alex anywhere in the city almost any night.
Yeah.
DJing everywhere.
And she does a great job, and like that's what makes her good.
She's got that crazy library that
it's
like a huge toolbox that she carries around, and it's got just like every record you've never heard of. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's cool about her. Yeah. So I was trying to anticipate what she might bring to the table, and like I said, early in my thinking, I was going to go a little bit all over the map. But I think it worked out when we actually did the episode because I stuck with the new, she stuck with the old. It was a nice little interplay.
Yeah, it was a great back and forth.
Yeah, so this episode...
You can catch that on YouTube.
Yep, check it out on YouTube. I think, is there an archive on Mild Sauce, too, that people can check out?
Well, we have the official, we've never actually told the people this on the show, but we do have, if you go to the website and you scroll over to the radio tab, underneath that is the Steve Breit Rock Discovery Show page. We actually have our whole separate page for Steve where you can catch all the shows that have come up, all of his recommendations, any playlists that he's putting together. And we're going to keep adding to that as the months go on. But that's been a new thing we just put together. So we will have a URL that we'll send out when we put this one out. But it is you can find all of Steve's stuff at technically mildsauce.co/the Steve Breit Rock Discovery Show with dashes in between, but we're gonna make it easier for you.
we'll get a short code. Or
yeah. But no, it is there. Yeah, the whole everything that you guys see live is always bounced after the fact, and we try to get it up on the site as fast as possible. So, if you're only catching this for the first time, there's a lot to dig through.
Yep.
And we're almost on episode 20 for next week. So yeah, everything is up on the site. I'm furiously working to edit videos that I don't know how to do regularly. If any of you out there are video editors and want to come fuck with the gang, we would really appreciate that.
But you shouldn't sell yourself short. You know, I think you do a good job, and I think as we've been,
it's very DIY.
Yeah, absolutely. As we've been kind of working through this, you know, we're clearing new hurdles and learning new things every week. So that's
absolutely, awesome. Man. We got T-shirts now, so we're legit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this next song, this is a classic track from Chicago legends Urge Overkill, and this is one of their earlier tracks. So we're going to check out The Kids Are Insane from Urge Overkill.
All right, let's get into it. Mild Sauce Radio, this is the Steve Breit Rock Discovery Show.
Just jamming out to some Chevelle, and before that we were listening to Be Seeing You at Camp Delta from Batterbrains, and then before that we were checking out The Kids Are Insane from Urge Overkill. So kind of dipping through. The Urge Overkill track was an outtake from that Alex White episode, episode 7.
Man, that was all the way back at 7, huh?
Yeah, I know. Wow. Time flies, right? We were just chilling with her a couple weeks ago at the event at Wayward.
Yeah, which we live streamed out of there as well. The White Mystery performed. We had a bunch of DJs. Mm-hmm. We've been busy, guys.
Yep. Hope to get them. Hope to get Alex and Francis in the studio again very shortly. But I think they're out on tour now, aren't they?
I mean, they're always kind of on tour, aren't they?
Yeah. Hardest working band. Then the next track we heard was Seeing You at Camp Delta. That was Batterbrains, and that was, again, an outtake from episode 17. Dipping back, like I said, that was one of the collaboration side projects off of Batterbrains with Crisco Thunder. And then the last track we were listening to was Chevelle off their debut album, and that was an outtake from episode 14. That was Punk Show Reviews. I think I had set that one up. I believe that was when I was talking about like a couple of concert reviews, and there was just, I think I put the Chevelle song in there initially just to kind of give a little bit of a local context, but we just didn't have time to play it.
Oh, really? Tell me about Chevelle, because that was a band that, like, when I was younger was buzzing about a little bit, but, like, you know, I kind of lost focus on.
They were a band, I mean, they're still around. They're still pretty huge.
Right, yeah.
To me, that was a band that, like, evolved away from where I was digging on them. So I'm a big fan of, like, their very early stuff. And as we heard, that was a track off of their first album. And I remember seeing them, this is, again, at least 15, maybe close to 20 years ago. They played House of Blues, and it was a great set. And that show really kind of struck me as, like, listening to them live, they've got such a great live energy that I don't think is translated on the albums. And what struck me was, I don't feel like you hear it so much on the albums, but seeing them live, I remember specifically thinking, wow, they've kind of got like a working man's Tool vibe. You know what I mean?
A working man's Tool vibe.
In a good way.
I feel like Tool was pretty working man, though, wasn't it?
You know, Tool's great. Tool's very cool.
Tool's very cool.
I think they get real expansive, and I kind of miss them. You know, it's been at least a decade since they put out a record.
Has it really?
Yeah.
I mean, damn, like it's weird. I think it's weird about like the world today is like, even when I was growing up in the the late 90s, mid 90s, late 90s, early 2000s type shit. I mean, you would listen to the radio and you'd have such an assortment. You know what I mean? Like now it's. Maybe that's just like the world we live. I might have just had like a real realization over here. So, but I'm like, honestly, like polarity in our world is so interesting now, and it's like it's like a through line to everything from like politics to music to like everyone's so segmented now, and it's like you can't. There's not really a station.
Everyone's so segmented, but I'll say, and you tell me, you know, traveling around, I gotta say, as a whole. And if you take it into context of other, let's say, Midwestern cities, think about Indianapolis, think about St. Louis, Milwaukee, Madison, Chicago radio as a whole sucks. Mm-hmm. It's really not good. You don't get a lot of variety. Everything's owned by your channel.
Hence why we're doing this.
Exactly. Where else are you going to hear what we're playing? You know?
Oh, nowhere.
You're not going to hear it on any radio in Chicago.
No, I mean, I thought it was crazy. It took, Chance and the guys, like, they had to be on fucking Saturday Night Live before the city would play their music. That's kind of crazy. It's supposed to be the other way around.
Yeah, I think,
I don't think
Chicago
Twin Peaks.
Chicago radio as a market is so dominated by the giant music conglomerates that all they're pumping out is like, you know what I mean?
Well, it was like they just tried to make that 104.3 Jam site like a Chicago station, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, it's like 20 white people in Atlanta running it. And it's like just a playlist of old rap songs.
Yeah.
And there's not any Chicago music on it.
Yeah, exactly. It's
You know
a
what I
whole
mean?
bunch of Jay-Z and Ja Rule.
Yeah, lots of Ja Rule. Tons of Ja. That's like the Ja Rule station, low-key.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got Vocalo doing good things, but, like, Vocalo should be where WGCI. Not saying anything against Vocalo. That's just the way the city is. That's other powers at work. But, like, Vocalo does such great work over there, and they have a frequency and stuff. Like, we should be, as a community, like, we should be pushing them to, and, like, I think they have been, but it's like, they can't reach as much as Clear Channel just by, I don't know, dollars and cents. We can't reach as much as Vocalo because, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like, but I feel you because, like, places like that, like Vocalo, WBZ, like, all the stuff those guys are doing is really what the inspiration for this is and, like, really why, like, and we want to build on that, right? But there is nothing else. Like, I love WGCI, I love DJ Moondog. Like, all of those guys are great. He was one of our first, he was actually my first guest on the radio. But that's not, and it doesn't reflect what's happening in the city or the people that live here. And that's why we're doing this. That's why you're here. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I mean, the city is so vibrant, and there's so much stuff going on, and so many different genres of music, so much cool stuff going on, and it is just not represented on the airwaves in the city. And I think it's a real shame. And that's why I feel good about what we do. And not to pat ourselves on the back too much, but
no, we're learning.
Like I said, like nobody's playing, Limp Wrist on Chicago radio. Nobody's playing, you know what I mean, a Relayer. Nobody's playing Sweet Cobra. Nobody's playing any of this stuff. So
no one's playing Sheck West. We got Mars coming through with the hits. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I think it's something cool that makes us stand out, and
hopefully
why I enjoy coming in every Saturday afternoon.
And all we got to do is keep it moving because we'll hopefully we can carry that torch and move this thing forward. But until then, Chicago radio is still going to be a little bit in the doldrums.
But yeah, like
I mean, you used to have like Q101 even was like such a great source. You know what I mean? Like Mancow was like our Howard Stern.
To a degree.
He was a dickhead. But he was he definitely was trying to be that. But he was like for Chicago, he was our Howard Stern. Like he was the shock jock you listen to in the morning. And we don't have that anymore though. That's more my point.
It's been a minute since he's been around, but that dude was a carpetbagger. He's not a Chicagoan. And then what was it about 5 years ago? Put up a big stink and put up these big editorials in the Tribune about Chicago's such a shitty city.
Did he do that?
Yeah, he moved out.
I had never give a fuck about him, but
he moves out of the city, yet he's broadcasting in Chicago. Lives out in a mansion out in the fucking burbs somewhere. That dude is a fucking carpetbagger.
All right, fuck him. I wouldn't mean like I liked him. He was like kid. He was the guy when I was growing up. It was like man cow everywhere. But it sounds like
yeah, definitely. If you look at the radio landscape back in the day, he was definitely a Howard Stern competitor and all that. But
yeah, so what happened with him? Did he just fall off at a certain point? Really?
Stern, I think
no, not Howard. I saw Howard Stern last night on the.
Back on the radio.
But he something happened where he just wasn't able to make it. That's why he's still in Chicago, or else he'd be in New York or all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think a little bit of my inner feelings came out there for a second. Like I said, I try and keep it positive, but
sometimes you can't. Sometimes you got to be real.
For a long time in Chicago, and I can't think of a time where I was like, yeah, I'm down with this shit.
I feel you. Anyway. We got some more music to get through. Give us a little intro into what's coming next.
Now, this one's interesting, and this is a outtake from episode 6, which, if you think back, if you recall, that was our post-Valentine's Day, not love songs, but songs about passion and devotion.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I do remember this one.
So strong feelings, let's say. That was the thematic for that episode. But this song didn't make the cut initially because I wanted to do a little bit of a deep dive in an upcoming episode, and this is something that I wanted to really kind of bring in a future episode, but it's a cool track, and I wanted to share it. So what this is a band called Weed Eater, And this is an old DuPage County band.
Oh, this is from that big collective album you found, right?
Yes. Yeah. So up on
compilation.
Bandcamp,
that's what I was looking for.
There was a dude, and I'm spacing on his name right now, but he literally posted up this amazing archive of Western suburbs, DuPage County, punk, metal, hip hop. It was just about like 150, 200 albums.
Yeah, I remember. I didn't download it because I don't have the space for that shit.
Oh, yeah. No, I picked it all up.
I know you did.
I've been slowly dipping through, but like I said, it's literally like 150 to 200 albums.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time to get through.
I would imagine. This is one of the ones, though.
Yeah, so this was a track from Weed Eater, and this was off an album called The Decline of the Western Suburbs, and it was a compilation album. It had a bunch of bands, and it cracked me up because looking at it, growing up around here, I've heard of some of these bands. I remember some of these bands. Some of these bands I've never heard of. One of the bands that's on here, Apocalypse Hoboken, another suburban Chicago band that's been around for a long time. I remember seeing them years ago, back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Real good stuff, but this is, like I said, this is a band, Weed Eater, that I'd never heard of before, but listening to it and getting into this gigantic wealth of cool music from back in the day. This was one of the tracks that stuck out early on in my looking around. And like I said, it didn't really fit in the episode 6 kind of framework. But like I said, I wanted to play it. And again, I think keep on the lookout. Future episodes, we're going to be getting into a little bit more of that DuPage County sound from back in the day, a little bit more. So
okay,
this is
all right,
a little bit of
a little taste
and a taste. So, yeah, this is a Limb from Limb by Weed Eater.
All right, let's jump into it. Mild Sauce Radio.
was that, guys?
No comment.
All right, we're back. First one is Weed Eater out of the western suburbs with Limb from Limb. That was an outtake from the episode 6. Then we heard Escape Route Turned Into a Trap. Local band, Social Quarantine. That was an outtake from episode 9. If you recall, that was the review from Chi-Town Football with that awesome Futura show. Social Quarantine was one of the opening bands on that show, and they performed great. That was a track that I wanted to play on that episode, and it just didn't fit in. Then the next track we heard was also an outtake from episode 9. That one was by a band called Blistex, and the reason they didn't make it, it was one of the not local bands, and they weren't on the bill. But badass, cool song. It was called Mi Mando Sola, and then previously it was Escape Route Turned Into a Trap. So we're going to be wrapping it up pretty soon. I can get on to some shout-outs, of course.
Shout-outs.
Jake, Ryan, the entire Mild Sauce crew. Shout-outs to everybody. Awesome fucking 3-piece in the morning. Got to chill out and check out some of that show this morning, so Absolutely. That was awesome. And then, 3-piece, Backcourt up next, Souls of Liberty, and then Police State. So all those Sunday shows, badass stuff. Shout-outs to everybody.
We're back in it. And also, make sure we say thank you to our man, Kyle Garcia, FDC Studios, for holding us down with this very dope
absolutely.
setup
Thank
we
you for
had today.
hosting us this week.
This
great,
is,
great
the records
spot.
and everything made for a great backdrop for the show today. So, we're happy to be here. And we'll be back again next week.
Yeah. So real quick, before I get out, anybody who's been observing noticed my outfit change. As I wrap up and get out of here, this weekend, in about an hour or so, is the UIC Rugby alumni match. So I'm going to be heading over to that. I am a former.
You playing?
I'm going to jump out there for a minute or two.
Steve getting that ankle back moving. All right.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how long I'm going to last, but I'm going to go run around and try and hit a couple people. That's at Smith Park. So if anybody's in the city and wants to see some chaos, man, come on down to Smith Park. The kickoff starts at 3:45 this afternoon.
All right.
But going out, we're going to go out on a couple tracks. Next track we're going to hear is called Trans Day of Revenge, and that was by a band called Gloss. We've played them a few times before. This was a track off of their final EP. They unfortunately broke up, but they are a really fucking badass band. And then the final song we're going to hear is Chicago's Against Me, and that is the True Trans Soul Rebel, but it is the acoustic version off of the EP, which I really love. I'm a big Against Me fan. I really love this track. That was an outtake from episode 6. So until next time, we'll be seeing you on an upcoming episode. But have a great weekend, and mild sauce. It's kind of hot.
It's kind of hot. Thank you guys for tuning in. As Jake Krez and Steve Breit, this has been the Steve Breit Rock Discovery Show, and this is Trans Day of Revenge by Gloss. Mild Sauce Radio.
All dressed up, I know where to go. Walking the streets all alone. Another night, so wish that you could forget. Making yourself up as you go along. Who's gonna take you home tonight? Who's gonna take you home? Who's gonna take you home tonight? Who's gonna take you home? Does God bless your transsexual heart? True trans soul rebel. Yet to be born, you're already dead. Sleep with the gun beside you in bed. Follow it through to the obvious end. Slit your veins wide open, you bleed it out. Who's gonna take you home tonight? Who's gonna take you home? Who's gonna take you home tonight? Who's gonna take you home? Does God bless your transsexual heart? True trans soul should have been a wife. You should have been gone from here years ago. You should be living a different life. Who's gonna take you home tonight? Who's gonna take you home? Who's gonna take you home tonight? Who's gonna take you home? Who's gonna take you home tonight? Who's gonna take you home? Does God